Navigating ISF filing, chemical imports. Welcome back to our video series on customs brokerage and international trade. In today's episode, we will be discussing ISF filing specifically for chemical and hazardous materials imports. Importing these goods comes with additional regulations and requirements to ensure safety and compliance. Understanding the ISF filing process is crucial. Let's dive in. Importance of ISF filing for chemical and hazardous materials. ISF filing is essential for the importation of chemical and hazardous materials. It allows customs authorities to assess and mitigate potential risks associated with these sensitive goods. Compliance with ISF requirements ensures the safe handling and transportation of chemical and hazardous materials. Accurate classification of chemicals and hazardous materials. Accurate classification of chemicals and hazardous materials is crucial for ISF filing. Importers must identify the appropriate harmonized system (HS) code that corresponds to the specific chemical or hazardous material being imported, ensuring the correct documentation and regulatory requirements are followed. Determining hazmat requirements. Importers must determine the hazardous materials (hazmat) regulations specific to the chemicals being imported. This includes identifying any required permits, licenses, or certifications from relevant authorities, such as the Environmental Protection Agency (EPA) or the Department of Transportation. Compliance with strict regulations. Chemicals and hazardous materials are subject to strict regulations to prevent accidents, protect the environment, and ensure public safety. Importers must comply with regulations such as the Hazardous Materials Regulations (HMR) and the Toxic Substances Control Act (TSCA) to successfully import these goods. Gathering accurate information for ISF filing. To comply with ISF requirements, importers must gather accurate and comprehensive information about the chemical or hazardous material being imported. This includes details such as the proper shipping name, UN number, hazard class, and packaging group, among others. Completing the ISF filing. ISF filing for chemical and hazardous materials imports follows the standard process, including providing the required information about the goods, importers, shippers, and consignees. It is important to ensure that the information provided is accurate, complete, and in compliance with customs regulations. Timely submission of ISF filing. Importers of chemical and hazardous materials must submit the ISF filing at least 24 hours prior to the cargo being loaded onto the vessel overseas. Timely submission is crucial to allow customs authorities to review and process the filing in a timely manner. Collaboration with customs brokers. Working with customs brokers experienced in handling chemical and hazardous materials imports is highly recommended. Customs brokers understand the complex regulations and can guide importers through the ISF filing process, ensuring compliance and timely submission. Hazmat documentation and record-keeping. Importers must maintain accurate records and documentation related to chemical and hazardous materials imports. This includes hazard labels, safety data sheets, permits, and any other relevant documentation required by customs authorities or regulatory agencies. Compliance audits and inspections. Chemical and hazardous materials imports can be subject to compliance audits or inspections by customs authorities. Importers should be prepared for these audits, maintain organized records, and ensure that the necessary documentation is readily available for review. Communication with regulatory authorities. Effective communication with regulatory authorities is essential for chemical and hazardous materials imports. Importers should establish open lines of communication, promptly respond to inquiries, and provide any requested information to ensure compliance with regulatory obligations. Training and education for employees. Importers should invest in training and education for employees involved in the importation of chemical and hazardous materials. This includes staying updated on regulations, safety procedures, and compliance requirements to maintain a safe and compliant import process. Handling emergency situations. Importers of chemical and hazardous materials must have proper procedures in place to handle emergency situations. This includes having appropriate emergency response plans, safety protocols, and necessary contacts to address any incidents that may occur during transportation or storage. Compliance with packaging and labeling requirements. Chemicals and hazardous materials must comply with specific packaging and labeling requirements. Importers must ensure that proper packaging materials are used and that the necessary hazard labels and markings are clearly displayed on the packaging, meeting all regulatory standards. Environmental considerations and disposal. Importers of chemical and hazardous materials must comply with environmental regulations, including proper disposal methods for waste or unused materials. This ensures the protection of the environment and prevents pollution or contamination. Monitoring and adopting industry best practices. Importers should continuously monitor industry best practices and stay updated on emerging trends, technologies, and regulatory changes related to chemical and hazardous materials imports. Implementing industry best practices enhances compliance and supports a safe import process. Collaboration with industry associations and expertise. Collaborating with industry associations and experts in chemical and hazardous materials imports is beneficial. These associations provide access to valuable resources, networking opportunities, and knowledge-sharing platforms, assisting importers in staying informed and compliant. Conclusion. Proper ISF filing is crucial for the compliance and timely clearance of chemical and hazardous materials imports. Importers of these goods must understand the regulations, gather accurate information, collaborate with customs brokers, and maintain thorough records. By adhering to these guidelines, importers can ensure the safe and compliant importation of chemical and hazardous materials. Thank you for watching today's video, and please stay tuned for more informative content on customs brokerage and international